before drones, before
Yeah.
you buy an iPhone and the background was an aerial beach. It was truly trend setting
Mm,
on like a
mm.
global level, but it's all from this fateful helicopter ride where I almost gave up.
Welcome to A Life Well Lived, where we pull back the curtain on the extraordinary lives of our remarkable members. I'm James Henderson, CEO of Exclusive Resorts. For me, travel has never been about the destination, it's always been about the company you keep. Over the years, I've crossed paths with some of the world's most fascinating, well-traveled individuals, each bound by a singular pursuit: to live not just well, but exceptionally. Their stories aren't just worth telling, they're worth learning from. Because in the end, it's not about where we go, but how we choose to live. We're very excited to be here in Los Angeles, California with Malin in his fabulous studio, surrounded by some amazing artwork. And we're going to spend the next 45 minutes or so talking to Gray about his story, about his inspirations, and about some of his artwork, and really some of the things that inspire him as he does all these travels around the world. So Gray, welcome to our podcast.
Thank you for having me.
So I'd like to start out with a question. I read something about you recently, and one of the things that you said was, when you know someone, you feel connected to them, and that your hope is that when people look at your art, they know you. So what do you want them to know about you?
I think with my purpose and my mission as a fine art photographer, since day one, I wrote down the phrase, make every day a getaway, and I've stuck to it for almost 15 years. And when someone sees a photograph of mine, I want them to feel connected to me in the sense that they can be transported. They can escape through the image itself, and they should feel something that comes over them, whether that's a memory or an aspirational idea. That's really the connection and purpose that I have stuck to in my work.
And is that to sort of inspire, because of course, I mean, just walking in this morning, it's amazing. I walk in from the elevator and there's all these incredible images down the hallways, and it's all very inspirational about travel. And was your intention to become a travel photographer, or did you want to do something a little bit different initially?
I think my intention was to make artwork that looked really fabulous in people's homes. I felt like there was sort of a lack of that sort of work, the marriage of interior design and great artwork at a certain price point. And, you know, for me, I just simply love to travel. I'm a very curious person. And when you start your own company and, you know, you're like, do I like shooting weddings? Do I like shooting people? Do I like shooting landscapes? You know, all these questions go through your mind. And the one that I really knew out of the gate was I love to travel.
Yeah.
So how can I make a career out of traveling and being a photographer? And it turns out that people really love to hang pieces of art that remind them of, you know, their favorite places in the world, or take them, transport them there. So it's really been a win-win for me.
So you started out your career in the entertainment industry, I think, didn't you? Did you always know that you wanted to do photography full time? Was that your goal?
I discovered photography in high school in the darkroom when I was a junior,
Yeah.
and I won a lot of awards in Texas in my senior year. And when I was applying to colleges, my parents were pretty firm on you should get a real degree and minor in photography.
Yeah.
And so I think, like a lot of people, you go off to school and you become completely inspired by people you meet, professors, lectures you attend, books you're reading. And I got really into marketing. Advertising. I thought it was fascinating how that kind of worked. And so I really majored in marketing and minored in photography with the intention of going out and landing a job maybe in marketing and continuing to do photography for fun. I had no idea the roles would kind of switch. But my final internship in Boston was in marketing at Paramount Pictures field office, and someone picked up a phone and called LA and said, I have a great intern who's coming out for his final semester. Do you have anything? And that's how I landed at Paramount in their marketing department.
Mm-hmm. And so coming here, I mean, I'm just walking around your office, you've got all these people outside and very busy and lots of things going on, but you started out selling your photographs in a market in West Hollywood or something. Is that right? That's quite a journey you've had.
I disrupted kind of the art market at the right moment without even realizing I was doing it. But when I left Paramount and I went out on my own to sell my work, it was during the recession in like 2008. And I had a mentor. She's like, you need to find a gallery to represent you. And I was like, every gallery in LA is closing. Like, this is not like possible. I think I'm just going to sell my work myself. Sort of, there was like a frown upon that idea, that sentiment. Like, you can't, you must be represented. And so I went to have a little sit down with a friend of mine who worked at the Gagosian Gallery in Beverly Hills. And she looked at me and said, Gray, I think the best thing you can do is get your name out there. And however that may be, that would be my advice to you. Just get your name out there. And so, yes, I started selling my work in a Sunday flea market in West Hollywood. It's probably the most popular flea market in LA these days. At the corner of Melrose and Fairfax. And
what year was that you started doing that?
It was 2008.
Okay.
Maybe it was 2009, but it all was sort
14,
of
15 years ago.
Yes. And what happened there was magical. I just stood every Sunday in front of a 10 by 10 tent with my black and white film photographs shot when I studied abroad in school, and I talked to people with coffee and different Angelinos walking by. What are you looking for to hang in your home? Do any of these pieces in this booth speak to you? And people give me feedback. And there was one photograph that people loved, and I'm originally from Dallas, Texas, and my parents have a small ranch in West Texas near a town named Marfa. And there was a art installation built on the side of the highway, a freestanding Prada store. And I frequented Marfa growing up. And so somewhere around 2008, I went out there with my dad and I took a photo of the store and I hung it in my flea market booth, and people couldn't get over this photograph as though it was photoshopped or what's the story. And I realized that people really enjoy a conversation with art. People like being, as I've said, transported somewhere. And it drove me to realize I should make artwork that sparks conversation and brings people together and unites them. And so my first series that I ever produced was with the township of Marfa. I shot a cowboy, his friend Carl, they brought his mule.
Weren't they friends of your father or something like that? Was this
one of them was like a farmer my dad worked with. And I remember I arrived at 5:30 in the morning. The sun was not quite up, but the lighting was so special. And I shot this image. It was called Two Cowboys, and they're just standing there, the gentleman, waiting for me to arrive. And I got out of the car and said, Malcolm and Carl, please don't move. Like, I want to capture this natural moment. And so that series, the donkey and these cowboys and all that was hanging in my booth, 12 months after I started. And then that just was like riveting. People wanted to purchase it, but I wouldn't have known that if I hadn't have started from almost nothing. Like, I had to learn. It's true grassroots, right? Like, that was invaluable. What I learned. And the reason I'm a disruptor is because at that same pivotal time of the recession, people were starting to purchase more online. And I had someone come in my booth and asked if I'd ever thought about selling my work online. And I looked at this person and thought they were crazy. And after doing a little bit of research, I figured out that I could actually sell with them online. And suddenly these Marfa prints aren't just being hung in homes around West Hollywood. They're being shipped to Connecticut, New York, and Florida, and Illinois, and Texas. And overnight, you're selling 300 pieces. They're all sold out versus like 30 pieces on a Sunday. Mm-hmm. And it just was like I was riding the wave, and the wave broke, and I was there, and I leaned into everything I learned at the flea market and just carried it onto the internet.
Amazing. And so what was the switch? So that was the Marfa shoot or series that you did. And then you made the switch to aerial photography. Was that, how did that come about? Explain the story behind that.
So Prada Marfa and that whole situation was fantastic because it funded me a little bit. Mm-hmm. I literally truly had, nothing at the beginning. And I decided with a friend of mine, I was going to go to Art Basel in Miami, mm-hmm. Art fair, booked a hotel, booked our flights. And like somewhere around 6 months out, some friends said, hey, let's go to Las Vegas for the weekend. We'll drive Friday afternoon. We'll get there, whatever. And I was like, sounds so fun. Let's do it. We hit like 10 hours of traffic. We got there at 2 a.m. And the next morning the next day woke up and I pulled the curtains and there was a humongous swimming pool just 20 stories below our window. And I instantly became mesmerized by the people swimming and the chaise lounge chairs and the way everything looked sort of repetitious, and it was dazzling. And I grabbed my camera, shoved it against the glass, took a photo, went back to LA, decided to make it my computer screensaver. I looked at it for months and months and months. And one day a light bulb went off and I thought, when you go to Art Basel, what if you go on the roof of different hotels and capture more images from above? And sure enough, I'm in Miami and I'm knocking on the door at the concierge. Excuse me, I'm a student photographer. I was trying to do whatever I could to sound pathetic. And I was like, can I please get on your roof for just 5 minutes? People were like, you need to get out, scram. This is not happening. It's an insurance liability. And I went to literally 6 different hotels, and I sat on Collins Ave on a bench, and I was texting my husband, and I said, this isn't working. And as I'm talking, sending this text, a helicopter flew over me, and I just sort of paused and I searched into Google helicopter, Miami, and clicked on like the first nice looking link. And the guy who answered the phone was like, hey man, like I'm actually a photographer on the side. I'm happy to take you up. This is what it costs. I can take the doors off. And let's go have some fun. And I was like, I've never been helicopter. The door's going to be off. That's crazy, but let's do it. I'm here. I have a vision. Sure enough, I drive. This is a little bit of a story, but trust me, it's a good one. I drive 45 minutes to this pathetic little airport. And he's like, it's going to take us 30 minutes to get to Miami, to South Beach. And I know you can only really afford 1 hour. So you're probably going to have about 10 minutes before we have to book it back here. And I was like, okay, that shouldn't be a problem. We're just going to circle these pools.
Yep.
In those 30 minutes, a freak little weather cell popped off the Atlantic, poured over Miami for 5 minutes. And when we got there, the pools were empty. They were gray. And I'm circling and I'm just seeing dismal, not nice kind of picturesque imagery below me. And in this moment of good for you, Gray. You tried everything and this isn't meant to be. I lowered my camera and as it went down to my chest, suddenly right in front of me was the beach. And I could see all of these umbrellas in these chaise lounge chairs, and the way they were all perfectly lined up on the sand, I was like a moth to a flame. I said, can we use the last 3 minutes to just do a quick pass over the beach?
And there's no one on the beach at this point, I guess, because it's the middle of a storm, right?
No one on the beach. And I have these images. You should see them, because you didn't even need people.
Yeah.
It was the umbrellas, and it was the geometric repetition. The sand became the canvas. And I got back to Los Angeles and I showed these pictures to my mentor, and she was like, this is stunning. You should do more of this. And I booked my next flight to Kauai, and 2 weeks later I got back. I flew to Sydney for 3 nights, stayed with a friend, shot all of that. 2 weeks later went to Rio where a friend was. I was just sort of like, and then, I put them up for sale online through this website I was selling with, and went to bed, woke up, everything sold out.
Wow.
It was like Marfa was forgotten, and
Amazing.
the aerial was,
And this was just this launch of this whole new theme for you. Incredible.
Before drones, before you buy an iPhone and the background was an aerial beach. It was truly trend setting on like a global level, but it's all from this fateful helicopter ride where I almost gave up.
So it sounds very Tom Cruise-esque, hanging out the side of a helicopter. It sounds very dangerous. Is it dangerous?
I would say it's not comfortable.
Especially in a gale.
I mean, it's so windy that tears just like stream down my eyes the entire time, but I am laser focused up there, and truly forget I'm in a helicopter, because I completely see the world in like a certain way. And if you ask any of the many friends and assistants who've come with me in the helicopter, I do think it might be a little more scary for them, just because they're not so focused on.
So you're hanging out of the door of this helicopter in a harness. Is that how it works? Or you
sort of, yeah. It sort of depends on everything, but yes, you can physically lean out of the helicopter if you'd like. Most of the time.
Do you get vertigo or anything, or are you perfectly okay at heights?
No, I'm fine with heights. It's more, it's the wind that's tricky. But honestly, flying in helicopter, if you've never done it before, it's like a magic carpet ride.
Yeah.
You can really just sort of go wherever you please, and the way you can climb from 500 feet to 1,000 feet in just seconds. And so with a skilled pilot, you can really, like, I'm directing the pilot as I'm flying through the microphone, trying to get the placement of the vehicle so I can line up the shot. So it's, as much as it's actually taking the shot, there's a lot of directing as well. So it's extremely, like, I don't think people realize just like how much is going into these images. It's not, I think people think of drones like, oh, you just go up there and turn and shoot a picture looking down. And it's nothing like that. It's almost like it's a thrill. Like I never know what I'm going to see. I could go up and fly over the same thing every week, for years, and there's something different every day. So it's like a once in a lifetime moment. Every time I go, you'll never see it again. It cannot be repeated. And I love it.
And when you go up, do you have a sort of a sense of, do you know exactly what you want to capture, or it's really sort of you just go and you see what you find?
It's a bit of both.
Is it?
I have like targets per se, like, and then I have pleasant surprises. 2 people skiing or 2 people paddleboarding can suddenly become this like beautiful moment from the right angle, the right placement of the lighting, and the composition. So, you mix that in with like, I want to shoot this one iconic golf course or swimming pool, and it's just this great mixture.
And you find something else as well. Interesting. So this was sort of at the period, this was what, like 2011, 12? Around about then you did that?
Yes, it was December 2011.
Sort of around about the whole launch of online communities, Instagram and things like that. So I mean, that's clearly been a huge sort of accelerator for you. What are the things that you use to sort of connect with your audience through something like that? How do you find a way to resonate with people?
I mean, I think it was so easy for the first like 10 years. Everyone was either had been following along since the beginning or had heard about me from word of mouth. There was no marketing. It was all just, people pleasantly coming along, finding my coffee table book or some product in a store and then start following. I'm not totally sure, but I think I kind of just feel like there's this authentic relationship between me and my audience where everything I bring to the table for them, whether it's an actual photograph or a pickleball racket with my image on it, it's something I personally feel like they would love. And through that authentic feeling of what you know or think will resonate with them, it just has been this evolution of, you're listening, but you're also doing what your heart's telling you.
Yeah.
I can't quite explain it. Like there's no algorithm for it. And in recent years, it made it quite difficult for you to connect with your audience because you have to kind of pay money to get back in front of these people, which is really interesting as well because, fair or unfair, it's just, our world sort of owned by a couple of significant tech companies. And, the world of gray Malin, what I personally think is fascinating is that we're not really a trend. I try as hard. If you look at any of my work, I don't want you to know when I took the picture. I try very hard to make it as timeless as humanly possible because these images should hang in your home or be a part of your life for decades, if not your entire life. And, it's a lifelong type of relationship. It's not like meant to be trendy.
Tell me about this. So after you did the aerial shots, you moved on. I think you did a shoot in Bolivia, didn't you, or something like that? Is that right? And that was with the balloons and flamingos and all these sort of crazy. What was the inspiration behind that? That's incredible.
Bolivia was interesting because I met an artist. I purchased a painting at Art Basel from this Bolivian artist, and he invited me to come down and make work with him. He was an artist and a photographer, and he was 75 years old, older man, but he had the best energy, and his son was fantastic. And so I went down to Bolivia and, I said, what animals do you all have out here? What's, like we have alpaca, llamas, and sheep. And I was like, Gaston, like,
Not very colorful.
could we get a llama or something to come out to the salt flats? And he's like, oh my gosh, yes, the llamas. And we were transitioning from a shot where we had like blown up all these balloons and weighted them, and kind of they look like orbs out on the salt flats. In case people listening don't know, the largest salt flat in the world is in Bolivia, and it sits like somewhere around like, I think it's like 12,000 feet or more. So color temperature reads, if you've ever been skiing, like things appear really bright. So we did an entire kind of color shoot there. But anyways, the star shot was when the balloons were all in the truck and the llama came out. I saw the balloons next to the llama, and I was like, what if we could tie these balloons to some like string and like drape it on the back of the llama. In this image, the white llama and the white balloons, the black llama and the black balloons just became like a whole thing. And to be honest with you, llamas became a huge thing. Like I would walk into, a fancy greeting card store, and all these cards are like fa la llama, happy Christmas, and like llamas were like on trend suddenly. But that was, I think, where I got to really flex more of my whimsical side. Because the brand, as much as it's travel, it's also very whimsical. It's the aerial component it's the thread that I continue to explore, but we branched into so many, I have an entire book called Italy where I went to Italy from like 2010 to 2017, like 7 years. And I just drove the coast and stopped at every single beach and took images and walked and walked and walked. Um, and like that timelessness, it exists there through the umbrellas and the scenery. And I
Because
was
you've got
really,
vast seas of umbrellas in places like Rimini and places like that, haven't you? It's
yes,
incredible.
just for me, it's like heaven. Like I
Yeah.
just love that. And
It's all very symmetrical too, isn't it?
I don't want you to know when that image was taken.
Yeah.
And I really like works in Italy. There was a beach club I shot in Capri called La Fontellina, which many people, probably exclusive resorts members, might have heard of or been to. I was there when like no one had heard of it. And I'm walking around the club taking these pictures, thinking this is the coolest beach club on these rocks right in front of the Il Faraglione, towering, um, two rocks that stick out. And, now it's like Instagram got a hold of it. People will journey all the way just to go to this one beach club. But at the time, it was sort of unknown, it felt. But anyways, the llamas were fun. Bolivia was fun. I returned to Bolivia. I worked more with Gaston. And we produced my monograph in 2021 that donned the llamas on the cover. My first Gray Malin, the Essential Collection. It's like a 8-pound book. You can get it on Amazon. It's really fabulous. It's the first like 10 years of my career.
You did a shoot at the Parker Hotel, which was incredible.
Yes, the Parker Hotel. That was incredible.
And that was something where you have like a flash inspiration lying by the pool one weekend or something.
Exactly. Yep. And what was fascinating about the Parker Hotel in Palm Springs was that
it's an amazing hotel.
It's quite a story, like how that all came to be. But what really happened there was that I got access to a private kind of vestibule to create work versus the public vestibule, which become kind of the beaches and ski mountains. And in shooting in that space of elephants and giraffes and camels living at this hotel, I realized that there couldn't really be a replication of this. Like this was like a true IP moment for me where like anyone could get in a helicopter, anyone could go kind of replicate some of the shots I had taken, go to Prada Marfa. But once you get permission inside a private hotel, it becomes signature. It's like, and so from the Parker, I was able to shoot at the Coral Casino in Montecito, which is a members only pool club. And from there, the Beverly Hills Hotel, which was truly amazing. They never really let a photographer do a series there before. And it really was sort of the next generation to me of like what my intentions were set to do work that became something that like really was not, that couldn't be replicated, because that was sort of what was happening. Everything I was shooting was being replicated by someone else. And it was sort of tricky to navigate that. And now we've worked on projects at so many incredible private locations that we've really made a name for ourselves. But at that time, the Parker was really important. I was really at that kind of moment in my career where you could either become, forgotten because everyone else is doing it, or you just keep pushing forward. And
it seemed like almost a pivot from before you were sort of taking photographs and you were of, I don't know how to articulate this, but of things that were sort of there and existing. Whereas this, you created the whole story, and you literally it was an entirely you came up with this concept of these pets living in the hotel or animals living in the hotel and things, and so that was kind of a shift, wasn't it? I think in terms of your career, is that correct?
Yes, it was definitely pushing the boundaries of what whimsical could really be. And I think it was probably the marriage of a beloved location
Yeah.
with some sort of fantasy.
Yeah.
And the marriage of the two is like something we continue to replicate.
Yeah.
We find locations our audience love deeply, and then we bring in a little bit of the timeless, whimsical, joyful touch that is the great Malin-esque moment. And the marriage really speaks to people and what they want to hang in their homes, you know.
So all of the work that you do, there's a scarcity element to it. Is there? Are they limited releases? How does that work?
So when I started, I wanted to make work that felt inclusive, not exclusive. And I've worked really hard to try to break down the barriers of the art world in the sense that like you're buying one of 10. And we basically have 5 sizes, and the biggest size is the most exclusive and the most expensive, down to the smallest, which is the least exclusive and least expensive. And the price ranges, you know, between $250 for a print and up. And I think it's really been exceptional to keep the art in this space and then introduce items like puzzles that cost $25 and coffee table books that are $40. So people can still be a part of the brand and also maybe aspire to one day own a piece. But my goal is really to be on as many walls as possible, not as few as possible. I feel like everyone should have something. Life is short. I want this to, you know, I want it to bring joy to more than, you know, less.
Tell me, so you also did, you've done how many books now? 5 books? 4 or 5 books?
I have done 5 coffee table books, and I've done 2 kids books.
And the first kids book was the Parker Hotel book?
Yes, Be Our Guest. Great kids book on Amazon.
And do you see more of that? What was the genesis behind that? The books. What got you into that?
I think every artist will tell you that their dream is to have a fabulous coffee table book of their work, and I was no different. And once the aerial work started moving, I started cold emailing publishers, and you know, and sure enough, one day I got an email from a random you know, someone I didn't know. I didn't reach out to them, and she's like, "Hi, I'm an editor at Abrams, New York, and we're doing a book on a blogger, an influencer who has one of your photos hanging in her living room, and I was curious if you'd ever thought of making a book." And I wrote her and I said, "Hi, see attached entire like PDF I put together of why my work would make a great book." That was kind of cold pitching. She, you know, took it to the people, the powers that be, and it, you know, my first book was called Beaches, and it became a New York Times bestseller, which for $40 coffee table books is not easy to do because you're up against, you know, a huge category of less expensive books. And to this day, that book, you know, just it exists everywhere, but also means a lot to a lot of people. It's interesting. I mean, you just feel like when you run an e-com business and you are mostly behind the screen, my favorite thing to do is to go on book tours and meet people, and just the genuine feeling of connection. It's very powerful to me. And when I see a book or a piece of art in the wild, it makes me feel connected to humanity in a way that, you know, it's a reminder every time of how you should keep going and continue to spread your wings. Like it means a lot.
So you've been to some incredible places with your photography. You've been to Antarctica. You've been all over the world. What are you? And obviously, you're very passionate about conservation. What locations have you been to that you think represent? What were the biggest challenges in terms of shoots that you did?
I think for those who aren't familiar, Antarctica was a project I went with National Geographic just as I think Exclusive Resorts has a partnership with, is it Lindblad now?
Yeah, I did it last year. It's amazing.
So
It's
the same boat you would take with
Yeah.
Exclusive Resorts. I went out, my grandparents went, and I'll never forget hearing their stories. So I took my sister, and National Geographic was aware that I was taking photographs and I wanted to place summertime objects in like the winter tundra. So we inflated beach balls and pool floats and like an inflatable swan and beach umbrellas out into the snow. And it all was like a fantasy up until I was on a little dinghy boat shooting this green inner tube, and a huge chunk of the iceberg fell off, and the driver, the National Geographic, had to slam the engine on, and we all like kind of fell backwards as we missed the wave coming from the ice. And you know, when I say like it was bigger than a 2-story house, these pieces of ice, that just the little one that fell off was not little at all. And I think just shooting in Antarctica in general is, you know, there's a reason when you're there that you're very protected and they're taking you in certain areas. Mother Nature is certainly very powerful. I will tell you the most difficult shoots are probably the urban shoots that I've been doing recently. We have an entire production of dogs. And basically during the pandemic, when I couldn't shoot people, one of my best-selling photographs, when I shot all these vintage models in vintage ski clothes in Aspen for a really lovely hotel, the Little Nell, their 60th anniversary. And the number one best-selling image wasn't of the people. It was of this amazing kind of like, I'd stuck all these skis, vintage skis, in the snow in a line, and shot the beautiful, this is at the top of the mountain, shot like the skis. And then this man brought his Bernese mountain dog, and I was like, can the dog be in a photo? And that photograph of the dog and the skis and the backdrop became so like beloved that it inspired me during the pandemic to really lean into the dogs. And I called the Beverly Hills Hotel and I was like, can I come back and reshoot a new project with dogs? And I thought they would say no, but they said, we love pets. Sure. Like, let's do this. And, you know, we had a solid relationship. And when that came out, it was literally September 28th, 2020. The world was dismal and I was nervous to put it out there. Everything was causing people like anxiety. And it was just instantly an obsession that went everywhere. Like the marriage, once again, of a special location with something whimsical equaled that kind of gray Malin fine art moment. And so we shot Beverly Hills. I shot New York City and Nantucket, then Aspen, then Palm Beach and Paris. We shot London, Boston, San Diego. It's been a journey. This is just in the last like couple years.
Yep.
But when you are working,
and how many dogs do you have on these shoots, or pets do you have?
I mean, usually around 20, and they all have owners and trainers.
Yep.
You're getting permits and you're shooting under the Eiffel Tower, wherever it is. Like, it is truly a lot. It's, for me, I don't, you know, I'm just a photographer. I'm not like, I don't come from a production background, but it's been really fun. It's just those shoots are like, it's when you see it, you know, it looks so like, oh, it's so perfect. It's like, yeah, because there were like 100 people behind the scenes working on it, but they're so fun. And of course, the like kind of larger the company became, the more I was able to invest. Every single photo shoot, we invest in the project. There's no like, the hotel doesn't pay us to shoot. We come up with the idea, we pitch it, take on all the costs. It's our vision.
Yep.
And, so it's been certainly urban shoots are complicated. Not my favorite, but also my favorite.
Really?
Just because it's just iconic. So iconic to shoot in London, on the streets in New York.
In
It's
Paris.
like,
Yeah.
I think of myself when I went to these places when I was younger, and like I never would have dreamt in a million years I'd one day be back in like such a professional way
Yeah.
to do something that is meant to stand the test of time.
Amazing. For young people, we have a lot of members who have young families and young kids. And what advice would you give someone now who's starting out, who has a passion for something like this?
One is, I have an authentic story because I was good at something at a young age. I was told maybe not to pursue it, but I ended up sticking to my gut, following it through, defying the traditional setting, and sort of pushing the boundaries while always listening to what felt right. I know it sounds maybe not, it's just authenticity is so difficult for people. I think a lot of people struggle to remain authentic. And I think if you know someone who's young, who's passionate about something, and they have this authentic desire, perhaps try to let them see that through, and don't forget that that might come with a year in a not glamorous flea market where all your friends think kind of like, what are you doing? My parents were so proud when I worked at Paramount. I was so miserable. And then when I went to the flea market, they were like, oh, my son's in a flea market. And I was so happy. So if you're listening to this, and you know someone who has an authentic heart or feeling towards something they're passionate about, don't overlook that. And maybe you need to give them, the tools versus take that from them.
That's great advice. So looking ahead at the photography, what's next for Graham? What excites you? What are you passionate about next? I mean, you've done so many things. What are you going to do next?
I decided over the many beach walks and all the time I had during the pandemic that the future of the company should be an experience. And I am very excited, in fact, elated to share that I will be opening the Gray Malin Getaway House in Montecito at Butterfly Beach for you and your family to rent. And I will be designing an entire getaway experience where the art is just the vehicle for your imagination and opening the door to allow you to create your own Gray Malin photographs and memories. And I'm just there to inspire you.
Fantastic.
Everything we've talked about, including the getaway house and all of the art and books, you can see on graymalin.com. We will have more information easily for you to search for or find in the navigation right there on the website.
Fantastic. You have a wonderful family. You have 2 children, 5 years old, I think. Max and Dove, is that right?
Yep.
How has fatherhood influenced your perspective on your life and your work?
Interesting question. How is it not? I think when I had the kids, Max and Dove were born in late 2018. It was unbelievable to A, become a father, but B, kind of put artwork in their nursery and live through the experience that I hadn't had yet, which I enjoyed so much thinking about. But really what's special is taking them to the Parker and showing them where Dad took these images.
Fantastic.
And them asking me, are you going to helicopter, Dad? Last week I did a photo shoot with a camel, believe it or not. And I was showing them behind the scenes videos, and they're like, Dad, I want you to hang this picture in my room. And just the way they interact and how powerful my profession has on a 5-year-old, or even when they're younger. And it starts with the kids' book. They start reading them at 2. And it's not just my kids, it's so many of our friends' kids. But for me personally, it's so magical to share something you've worked hard on with all these different age groups. And for them, I hope Dove really wants to be a photographer. She got a camera for Christmas. I hope to continue to inspire them and be a role model to them. But yeah, they're wonderful in the sense that I get to go back to these destinations with them, relive them through a different perspective than when I was there shooting and hustling and working. And it's all just so much more meaningful.
So how do you balance work and life now you've got your growing family?
That's the $1 million question. I wish I knew the right answer to that. I feel like every day I ask myself that question. But
you have fun in what you do, though.
I have so much fun. I think it's a tough question. Balance is tough. But doing drop off at school in the morning and, being able to plan out vacations with exclusive resorts and special moments, and knowing, I really enjoy planning out in advance and kind of trying to find that balance through kind of, call it monthly or quarterly moments that are very impactful. And it's truly been helpful in a way that it's a little different because, I can go on a website and book a hotel stay for tomorrow. But if I'm booking something like 6 months out and I anticipate it coming, I can kind of balance my life a little bit better around these larger trips and moments of the year.
Tell me a bit about your recent stay in Costa Rica.
So I went to Costa Rica for Thanksgiving. I went with my father-in-law, mother-in-law, my kids, and my husband. And I think what was really fun for us was that we didn't over plan the trip. We had like one activity a day where we were either going on a boat or going to see crocodiles or something like, the local habitats. And we really struck a balance between visiting the beach clubs and sitting by our pool and seeing a monkey and seeing an iguana. And there was this incredible fantasy of what it might feel like to have vacationed in like Hawaii 60 or 70 years ago when it wasn't populated. It just is so natural feeling there that we were all pleasantly surprised. And there was no lack of great restaurant options and amenities and multiple beach clubs. And we had friends who were staying at the Four Seasons, and we were able to have Thanksgiving with them and like a garden with an astronomer present, and just was magical. And if you asked my husband's parents, who've been traveling the world recently, if it was their favorite trip of the year, I think they'd tell you it was.
That's
and
great.
Also, when can we go again?
Anytime.
I would say it was a 12 out of a 10.
Great. That's good to hear. Fantastic. So when you're not working, what sort of activities bring you joy and inspiration? When you're away from the camera, what do you do?
I mean, I certainly love interior design. I'm certainly passionate about tennis. I'm very, I would say, I'm a pretty like positive, very, I would never spend a day indoors. I'm the type of person who's always going to find a balance of some exercise and some fun with like, let's continue that puzzle or watch that TV show. Um, I'm very happy in Los Angeles. It's like the right lifestyle for the type of person I am. But specifically, I love, I kind of just love being with my kids. Riding bikes is a huge thing right now. We're all riding bikes.
Mm-hmm.
It's quite magical, just how far you can go and
Yeah.
what you can see. And um, I don't cook. I wish I did. I'd love to have more time for that. So I look forward to maybe as I approach, I'm not even 40, but as I get a little older, finding those more kind of amazing things in life that you don't have the time for when you're young.
And is there one image, or I don't think you can have a favorite image, you've done so many, right? But is there one that you look back and you think that was the one that was sort of pivotal? Is there something that you've taken, an image in all of the photographs you've taken where you say that was the one that was sort of changed things for you?
Yeah, there's so many. I mean, my cousin had all of my like relatives come and stay in the house when we were in Costa Rica at Thanksgiving. I think there were like 12 of them.
Yep.
And they played a game where they all had to pick their favorite gray Malin photograph in the house.
Mm-hmm.
And she's telling me how different the answers were.
That's
I mean,
interesting. Yeah.
there are at least 4 in each room, if not, I don't know, hallways and bathrooms. So there's tons.
Yep.
And I have to ask everyone listening, I would love for you to go to graymalin.com and tell me your favorite, because it's not easy to do. Mm. There's a little bit of something for everyone. And once you find one you love, you're probably going to find another. But yes, that's the fun of it all, right?
That's exactly the fun of it. Gray Malin, thank you so much. It's been an inspiration. It's been really fun hearing your story. It's extraordinary. I mean, the journey you've been on has been amazing. And the accomplishments that you've had and the success that you've had, you're a real inspiration. So, we look forward to welcoming you in more destinations as your travel continues.
Oh, I cannot wait to travel more with you all. Thank you for having me.
Very welcome. Stories like this are a window into what makes the Exclusive Resorts community unlike any other. Filled with members who live with intention and travel without compromise. With more than 400 private residences and curated experiences around the world, the club continues to redefine the art of living well. Learn more at exclusiveresorts.com.